Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Welcome to today's Ukraine Daily Update. First, the status of discussions between the Trump administration and Vladimir Putin. It was revealed earlier today by Marco Rubio that on Monday or Tuesday of this week, there had been an extensive conversation between the two sides where the United States expressed extreme frustration with the fact that Vladimir Putin is not acting in good faith, and every time there's a request for a ceasefire, Ukraine will comply with that request, but the response from Russia is just to engage in mass murder and terrorism. So, what was the response this time? Well, last night, 309 drones and 8 ballistic missiles were fired by Russia into purely civilian targets all across Ukraine. Now, you look at this map and you see all of these different tracks from the weapons that were fired again into civilian targets. And I want you to think about this is the impact of it. This building right here, a flattened apartment complex, completely leveled, filled with people, filled with men, women, and children. Now, there were 15 dead and 145 wounded last night. And this caps off a month in which 6,000 drones, again, were sent by Russia into Ukraine in just mass murdering civilians, no military targets, no military value, blatant war crimes. Now, when I say 6,000 drones, understand what that means. Look at the size of this Shahed drone. It's almost as big as a car. And when we talk about ballistic missiles, again, these are incredibly violent. I've been near these when they land. They have a 2,000-pound warhead traveling at hypersonic speeds, meaning 6 or 7 times the speed of sound. Now, when you get away from the cities and the mass murder of civilians, again, even on the front where it's two armies combating each other, Russia continually engages in blatant war crimes. Here, they're flying an FPV drone with explosives into an ambulance that is clearly marked. That is the most prototypical and blatant violation of the Geneva Convention you can imagine. And this is something that plays out again and again and again. Attacking ambulances, killing POWs, torturing people they capture. That's Russia. That's their culture. Now, after seeing all this, Donald Trump earlier today in a press conference said he was disgusted with what Russia is doing. Now, he's increased the harshness of his rhetoric and has stopped trying to equate the sides, and I think he's speaking properly about how Russia is acting and treating the parties fairly relative to their conduct by calling out Russia and not attacking Ukraine as he was in the past. So that's a good trend, and he's doing the right thing with respect to the nature and tenor of his communications. The problem is it's not having any results. You know, earlier we know that he had reduced the time period for Russia to come to the table before he will impose secondary sanctions, tariffs, and other unstated measures from 50 to 10 days. But even reducing that and even being more harsh in his communications with Russia, even posting yesterday on Truth Social that he's going to impose tariffs on India, at least in part because they're buying Russian oil, has done nothing to modulate or reduce Russia's aggressive, vicious, and illegal conduct. In fact, Dmitry Medvedev, who was basically Putin's spokesperson, informally, has been engaging in a Twitter war with Donald Trump. It's really strange to see basically two heads of state or two people acting on behalf of heads of state going after each other in this way. In fact, Medvedev, not only did he threaten to attack the United States a couple days ago, this morning he effectively threatened what amounts to a veiled threat of nuclear war against the United States. Now, when you look at all that, it doesn't look like things are trending in the right way. And again, it's the continual thing where you can talk to Russia, you can try to negotiate with them, but really the only option, proven it time and time again, and I think Trump is figuring this out very slowly, too slowly, causing lives in the process, is that military defeat of Russia is the only thing that's ever going to work. They understand force, they understand violence, that's it. Now, moving further east, outside of the cities, what you see, again, more war crimes. And here you have in Kramatorsk, which is a city, basically now it's a frontline city next to Chasiv Yar, which has been attacked and flattened by Russia. We'll get to that in a second. Just leveling an apartment building. And this is an act of pure terrorism. I've lived in Chasiv Yar. There's really no large or valid military target, and this certainly is not one. Now, when you look at Chasiv Yar specifically, this is a city that Russia claims it has liberated. Now, it's unclear that they've even taken the city. Sometimes they've been caught, especially lately when they've been unable to take land and been frustrated with the slow pace of Russian advances. In fact, at their current pace, it would take Russia something like 90 years to take all of Ukraine and millions of casualties. But again, look at these pictures. This is what Russia calls liberation. This is a familiar pattern of rendering everything that they cover a total and complete wasteland. It's just like many cities in Ukraine, like Bakhmut, just like Aleppo, just like Grozny. This is everything about Russia and how they act, and they've been doing it for decades. Now, I like to end these updates on one little piece of good news, and we do have that here. The strong, robust, and healthy democracy in Ukraine has worked beautifully again. As you may recall, about a week ago, the Ukrainian parliament and Zelensky passed a law that reduced the independence of two anti-corruption bodies within the Ukrainian government. Now, they've had reasons for doing that, but possibly didn't really communicate why they were doing it, and it made people very angry because, again, corruption is a legacy of the Soviet system of Russian domination of that country. It is something left over of, it's like the colonial past, okay? So Ukrainians are rightly very sensitive about corruption issues. And when that law was passed that made corruption harder to investigate, people took to the streets. They protested. And the response today was the Ukrainian parliament passed a law that restored the independence of those anti-corruption bodies. And President Zelensky signed that today into law. So within a week of a bad law passing, people complain, and it gets fixed by the government. I wish America worked that effectively and that efficiently. So anyways, there you have it. Stay strong. God bless Ukraine. Thanks for watching.